The other thing that I think is a really important thing to convey is the difference between symptom management and disease modification. So there are so many times people come to my office and I say, why are you taking X? And they say, because it helps. I'm taking it to help my Parkinson's. And I say, help how? Like, what kind of help is it providing for you? And a lot of people will shrug their shoulders and not know what I'm talking about. So you can almost think of Parkinson's disease as having two separate goals. There is hiding the symptoms, treating the symptoms so that you can get on with your life and have a full, fulfilling quality of life. And then there's this goal of disease modification, where we're actually talking about slowing the rate of progression. And they're very, very different. As a researcher in Parkinson's disease, they couldn't be more different. There are things like levodopa and the most of the medications that we give you, we don't give them to you because we think that they're going to slow the progression of this disease. We give them to you to hide the symptoms so that you can get on with your life. Similarly, there are some things that you can do to hopefully slow the rate of progression. Take exercise, or some of the dietary recommendations I'm going to make. The data that I'm going to lean on suggests that the people who eat X, Y, and Z actually have fewer symptoms over time. You might not notice anything when you start eating more green beans and salmon. Your symptoms aren't going to get better. It doesn't give you more dopamine. It doesn't treat your motor symptoms. It's not like popping a pill where all of a sudden you can move again. Some of the recommendations I'm going to be focused on are more for the purposes of what we call disease modification. And so right now there are a whole bunch of FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs for the symptomatic management of Parkinson's disease. Levodopa, the dopamine agonists, rasagiline, selegiline, the MAO-B inhibitors. But the FDA does not have a single approved drug to slow the rate of progression. And so the way I talk to my patients about this is kind of think of it as offense and defense. You need these dopaminergic meds. I will often ask sports fans, what's more important? Is it more important to have a strong offensive line or a strong defensive line? And anyone who really knows sports well will take a minute to think about it and conclude both. You cannot win the game unless you have both a strong offensive and defensive strategy. And that's exactly how I want you to think about Parkinson's disease. These medications, the dopaminergic medications, are like playing defense. They help you not get scored on. They allow you to not lose, right? But you still, they alone are not enough. The disease is going to continue to progress and slowly degenerate if you don't get your offensive game going on. And so that's what I'm really focused on here, because we have meds that do a fabulous, fabulous job hiding so many of the motor symptoms. So actually optimally in many cases, where I see the greatest unmet need is in the offensive strategy. It's going to be a really long time before the FDA approves any special diet or exercise program for disease modification purposes in Parkinson's disease. But we still have a lot of data that exists suggesting that people who do A, B, or C actually have improved outcomes over time. So what we're going to focus on in these videos are, think of me as the coach of your offensive line. Let your conventional doc, your neurologist, be in charge of your defensive strategy, and together hopefully you'll have a really good team.